Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, we're going to go over the top 10 best shots at winning the national title this year. This is the ESPN computer, and now it's been put in percentages, which will make it way easier for anybody to kind of see. And again, it's only the top 10. This is on Sports Illustrated by James Parks. The special computer predicts college football's 10 most plausible national champions. And I know a lot of you don't trust computers out there, especially if you grew up in the 80s.
10, it's got the code, it's going to launch.
But, hey, it's still very interesting. And this comes from ranking and score predictions. They're based on 20,000 simulations of a team's season and games, using key analytics, including scores to date, etc. And we're going to start with number 10, Tennessee. Little bit surprised they didn't get knocked out of the top 10 with Nico Iamaleava taken off to UCLA, but I think this is a combination of a few things. First of all, Josh Heupel, who has had a tremendous run after taking over a team that was kind of in shambles after the Jeremy Pruitt saga, and I think that certainly plays a role. And of course, Tennessee's defense finished top 10 last year. They were really strong on the defensive line, and then their secondary got much better. We'll see how Jermod McCoy comes back from that ACL. If he comes back strong, this should be a very similar defense to last year, because even with James Pierce going to the NFL, we've got a couple of 5-stars on that defensive line that are ready to flourish. And of course, the other reason, and we'll talk about Joey Aguilar here in a second, is probably Neyland. Because here's the thing about playing at that stadium. First of all, Josh Heupel is 22-4 at Neyland. He's also won 17 of their last 18 games at home, which is tremendous. And I can tell you, when you hear this, oh, it's a 3-point advantage if you're at home, that's nonsense, especially if you've got a great stadium that can get insanely loud. It's not 3 points. It's 7 to 10 points. It makes a huge difference. I can tell you playing at the Swamp, for example, is definitely a touchdown difference. Playing at LSU, all of those places are, well, they can be nightmares, especially at night. But EA Sports had us outside the top 10 as far as toughest stadiums. Well, Josh Pate wasn't having that.
I got all the respect in the world for the folks at EA. To have Tennessee outside the top 10 of toughest places to play in college football is evidence of drug use. Not only is Tennessee top 10, Neyland Stadium's the toughest place to play in college football. Don't start with me. You can go argue with this wall over here. I've been there for the best of it. This right here is not footage that we ripped from a network. That is straight from the eye, Josh. I shot this myself. I've been there. I've been a part of it. Deafening. And also, there is the psychological factor of the fact that Rocky Top's the most annoying sound in the world to anyone who's not a Tennessee fan.
Can we just stop losing to this stupid team with their stupid orange colors, their stupid song, and their woo, woo, get their woo on out of here.
So you practice with it all week, blaring on the loudspeakers, and everyone's drilling it into your head. You got to go beat Tennessee, or this is what you're going to hear. And it's great if you go beat them and shut them up, but if you don't, do you know what it's like to be trailing Tennessee? Tennessee takes the lead on you in the fourth quarter, and they're just blaring Rocky Top. You got 100,000+ people singing it at the top of their lungs. Psychologically, it does something to you. So I not only do I have them top 10, not only do I have them top 5, I got Tennessee as the number 1 toughest place to play in college football.
Am I supposed to argue with that? I've been to Neyland many, many times. It probably is the toughest place to play as far as noise, and I can tell you that song gets to people. It just flat out does. Now, are there tougher places to play? If the right team is in that stadium, yeah, of course. A lot of people would say LSU. Some people would say the shoe at Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. All of the Swamp. But as far as just super loud, it's just something the way that stadium's designed, having 100,000 people on top of you, and it just kind of, the noise stays in there, and it's very impactful. So I think that plays a big role as well. Anyway, the computer gives them a 5.6% chance of winning the Natty. So they got Tennessee at a 5.6% chance of winning. Their win total 8.7. Obviously, that's lower than it would have been had Nico not taken off. Joey Aguilar, we don't know if he's going to be the next Hendon Hooker or if he's going to get replaced by Jake Merklinger. We just don't know. All we can look at is what he did at Appy State, which is against competition that's not really Power 4. So it is what it is. But I think those reasons I listed before, that's why ESPN's computers are giving us some respect. We probably would have been 7th or 8th with Nico if I had to guess instead of 10th. All right, let's go to number 9, Miami. I could totally see this. Miami has spent a ton of money. Their total win, they're looking at 9.7 wins is what they're thinking. They had a great shot of winning the conference last year. They kind of blew it at the end. 6.2% chance. Brought in Carson Beck. I thought that was a really good move. You know, they brought in Ward last year, which worked out great for him. And he wound up being the first pick in the NFL draft. And I guess Carson's thinking the same thing. His competition level will not be as tough as playing when he played at Georgia. So that'll help his numbers quite a bit. And he'll have more time to throw the ball. And Miami has a great offensive line. They've spent a fortune on that team. Number 8, Clemson. I don't know if I'm surprised they're not a little higher than that. 6.8%, 9.7 wins. You got Cade Klubnik. A lot of people think he might win the Heisman. I just, with the 12-team playoff, it is a little bit tougher because you're going to have to win 3-4 games. And I think they're questioning whether or not they can handle that level of competition consistently through the playoff. So that may have something to do with that, but they should definitely be in the top 10 because I think they'll make the playoff. Notre Dame, number 7, having to change out quarterbacks, that's probably part of it. 7.3%, 9.3 wins. CJ Carr possibly being the starting quarterback. We'll certainly see. Notre Dame has spent a ton of money on NIL, and that really shot them up the board, and they darn near won a natty last year. They got to the final game. So I'm surprised they're not a little bit higher than this, honestly. Oregon, you got to see Oregon somewhere in there. 10% chance, 10.4, 10 wins total. I think because they're going to miss their quarterback from last year, but they do have a 5-star in Dante Moore, and, they're loaded with talent as well. I can see that. At least a 10% chance. I'd put them at a minimum of that. Old Penn State, definitely, they're getting their respect now. 14% chance. They got their quarterback coming back. Drew Aller, I just think he's a rock-solid QB, and not a lot of teams have that. A veteran guy, most of them either have left through the portal or they've gone to the NFL or they run out of eligibility. So I can totally see them at 14% chance of winning the Natty. Alabama, they're getting their respect again. 20%, 1 in 5 chance of winning the whole thing. They've had great recruiting, obviously. Kalen DeBoer. Jalen Milroe just was not a good fit for that offense, and I've tried to explain that multiple times. Took a lot of grief from the Alabama fans that Jalen Milroe's not right for a Kalen DeBoer offense. He's just not. You look at the success he had with the 2 previous quarterbacks, it wasn't really that close. They're going to have a guy that probably fits a little bit better in Ty Simpson, a guy with touch who can be very accurate. And really, Kalen doesn't want a running quarterback typically. His last 2 didn't run at all. But again, this is SEC. Having a running quarterback's a huge asset. So we'll see whether or not Ty Simpson makes it long term. They got Austin Mack, who he brought in from Washington, and then they got a 5-star. So they're definitely getting a lot of props. And I think a lot of this has to do with Ryan Grubb getting back together with Kalen DeBoer. I call him shake and bake. That's probably a big part of this as well. So they're looking for a rebound for Alabama. And having a 1 in 5 chances, that's really high. Then we got Ohio State. They've dropped down to number 3, and I say drop down. That's because they're losing a lot. Not on the field necessarily. It's still a 21% chance of winning, which is super high. The big issue for them is they lost their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, and their defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. And that's tough. Man, that really kind of messes up your chemistry of your team, and that's something Alabama dealt with. Good gosh. Nick Saban was constantly having to replace guys at key positions like that. So this is part of winning. But they're still over 20% chance, which is really strong. Number 2, Georgia. I would never have them out of the top 3 until Kirby retires. 30% chance of winning the whole thing, 10 wins. I'd say that's accurate. It's Gunnar Stockton's time. I tell you, and I've said this multiple times, if Todd Monken hadn't gone to the NFL where he's thriving, they'd be my number 1. because Kirby is always going to have a great defense. That's just a done deal. But having Todd Monk in there on the offense wasn't even right. That wasn't fair. And you saw that where they won 2 natties with Stetson Bennett, who was a marginal quarterback. He was pretty good. You know, I'm not sitting here slamming the guy. He played really well. I know he was a thorn in our side. But with Bobo, who is an okay offense, he's not bad. I'm not ripping on Bobo, but he's no Todd Monken. They'd be number 1. They're currently at number 3. A 30% chance is way up there. I mean, that's super high. And then we go to number 1, Texas, who is spending a fortune this year. Reports of $35 to $40 million in NIL. Arch Manning, the $6 million man, who is going to be their quarterback. I think Arch is going to be terrific. I really do. I mean, we got to see him play some last year. It wasn't a ton, but he looked terrific. Great arm, and he can run. He's a legitimate dual threat guy. He's more athletic than Peyton or Eli. So look for him. And on top of that, he's surrounded by 5 stars and high 4 stars everywhere you look. You know, Texas may be buying a national title right now, which that's the game we're in, folks. That's not me ripping on Texas. I know the Texas people, it's not 40 million. Calm down. That's the game we're in. And if you've got the money to do it, you probably should do it.
Haven't you noticed? You got to be a man to play in my league.
Because next year it's going to get tougher and tougher because we don't know what's going to happen with this College Sports Commission. When they pop in here with Deloitte and they start telling everybody all your NIL deals are ineligible and you can't have that player, it's going to get beyond ugly. And they're still trying to get a antitrust exemption from the Congress, which good luck with that. So this is the year to spend the money, and Texas is spending it. And so are many other clubs. So it's not me just pointing them out. It's just they're spending the most. I can see them having I wouldn't put them at 37%. I'd probably put them around 30. I think some of these last few are pretty high, but I mean, they're terrific teams, and Steve Sarkisian's a great offensive mind. So anyway, that's your top 10 most legitimate chances of winning a natty. Could we have some dark horses? Absolutely, without question. But when it's all said and done, the cream usually rises to the top, and when you're spending over $30 million on each of these teams in the top 5, they're probably going to rise.
Ain't it peculiar how money seems to do that very thing?
Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit that little button right there. It will not cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.